Polling stations closed in Trinidad and Tobago general elections to elect the parliamentarians responsible for appointing the nation's prime minister. In Brazil, senior diplomats from the BRICS countries met this Monday in Rio de Janeiro to present a united front in the face of the complex international situation. After a massive and unprecedented blackout that hit most of Spain and Portugal on Monday, the 61.35% of Spain's electricity capacity has been restored. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We'll begin with the news. Stay with us. Polling stations closed on Monday in Trinidad and Tobago in general elections held to elect the next parliamentarians responsible for appointing the Prime Minister's nation. More than 1 million citizens were eligible to vote in the polls, which had a presence of observers from the Caribbean community to guarantee the transparency and legitimacy of the process. The ruling National People's Movements and the opposition party United National Congress are now vying for the majority of the seats in the Chamber of Representatives within the context of a severe economic crisis in the country. Still in Trinidad and Tobago, as outside polling stations, voters shared their thoughts on the day and was at stake in the 2025 general election.
I didn't have any issues at all with when it came to going and vote and things. Everything was running smooth. I've been spending about 5-6 minutes at least inside. I really come out this year to vote for change. So that is why I come out to stain my finger in order for a change to take place. I hope if the other side come into government that they take care of the people and they see about the people, because we will hold them accountable for that.
The crime rate, especially the food stuff, that is way up. There are people not working at the. I don't know how they make it out. Yes, so those is my concern, and I wish for betterment for everyone.
In this context, Trinidad and Tobago Prime Minister Stuart Young addressed the media after casting his vote early on Monday.
It is up to the population now. I am not one who worries about those things. Once I am satisfied, which I am, that we ran a good, hard campaign and we put forward as much as we could to the population has to measure. And that's what I've been saying. Today is your day to go to the polls, to either give me a mandate to continue or not. Simple. I will be in my constituency, and once I've secured my constituency, which I believe I will quite easily, then I will make my way to Balize House.
You're concerned about them?
We expect to not only retain my constituency, but hopefully with record numbers. That's what I'm setting out to do.
And let's go now live to Trinidad and Tobago with political analyst Derek Rasamuch to know more about this electoral date. Welcome, Derek, to From the South.
Thank you very much for the invitation, Anna.
Thank you for being here with us. Well, let's start with the interview. Can you tell us how was the electoral environmental there in Trinidad and Tobago, please?
The environment was exciting. It was full of people's activity. There was the utilization of a lot of music, a lot of political speeches, and the utilization of artificial intelligence as a strategy to mobilize the young people to come out and vote. It was for a period of 35 odd days, and there were many meetings throughout the country.
Thanks for that. And also, can you tell us how was the voters' turnout of the people voting for these parliamentary elections?
It was an election for 45 members of parliament. That is the individuals who make up our parliament. of which one shall be selected as Prime Minister. You had a very rigorous campaign in which different political leaders sought to give direction to the future of Trinidad and Tobago and its economy as it dealt with the gas economy, the energy economy, and what was needed for people to have a better quality life.
Yeah, and how these parliamentary elections will benefit the island, because as we know, the parliament, the people will elect the parliament, and then the parliament will elect, will be the responsibles to elect the prime minister.
Yes, you are very correct. And what is important is that people are looking for a new economic direction because of the geopolitics in the world where Donald Trump has certain economic policies, and because of the attempt to diversify the economy, both within the energy sector as well as perhaps in trade matters and agriculture and more regional trade. These were the points that were being considered by the undecided voters.
Thank you very much, Tudor, for being here with us and from the South. And now we'll continue with our news. In Brazil, senior diplomats from the BRICS countries will meet this Monday in Rio de Janeiro to present a united front in the face of the complex international situation. The meeting of the foreign ministers of the integrationist bloc will focus on strengthening the multilateral trade system, reforming the organizations that govern the international order, and cooperation between the countries of the South. For Brazil, which holds the presidency of this year's Cooperation Forum, these issues will help to strengthen the position of developing and emerging countries and send a message about the need for a less unequal and fair world. In this context, Brazilian Foreign Minister Mauro Vieira held talks with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov on Sunday aimed at strengthening bilateral relations and debate on multilateralism and Washington's tariff aggressions. At the end of the meeting, the heads of the diplomacy announced that they had discussed issues relating to cooperation between Moscow and Brazil, as well as the agenda of the BRICS ministerial meeting. In Canada, citizens take to the polls on Monday in a federal election overshadowed by tariff, economic uncertainty, and annexation threats from the U.S. Voters will decide whether to grant interim Prime Minister Mark Carney a full 4-year Monday or give the Conservative Party a turn at the wheel after more than 9 years of Liberal Party government. Canada's uneasy relationship with the U.S. has deeply influenced the tenor of this year's campaign. And now let's take a very short break, but remember you can join us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. After a massive and unprecedented blackout that hit much of Spain and Portugal on Monday around 23 local time, the 61.35% of Spain's electricity capacity had been restored. The blackout halted all subways and railway trains, cut phone service, and shut down traffic lights and ATMs for millions of people who live across Europe's Iberian Peninsula. Spanish-powered distributor Red Eléctrica said that the restoring power to the country could take up to 10 hours. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez said that the problem in the European grid that he described as a strong oscillation was behind the outages, but that cause was still being determined.
Por ejemplo, la UME The University of Malaga is preparing electric generators, logistical support material and, tomorrow, in the Council of Ministers, we will approve a preventive agreement to release 3 days of strategic reserves of petroleum products. Although I insist, at the moment, there is no sign of any shortage. I imagine that at this moment, as we all are, many citizens are wondering what will happen tomorrow, what they should do tomorrow. The situation is very asymmetrical throughout the territory. There are autonomous communities that have already recovered up to 97% of the supply, and there are others that, unfortunately, are below 15%. Therefore, the situation is asymmetric and we have to respond in accordance with this symmetry depending on the territories.
After meetings in the Vatican on Monday, cardinals have agreed on May the 7th as the day to begin the conclave to elect the new pope. These ways, cardinals made the decision at the 5th General Congregation held in Vatican's Synod Hall. The conclave to elect the 267th pope will begin on May the 7th, following the conclusion of the Novenas Masses to pray for the late Pope Francis. The two previous ones in 2005 and 2013 lasted only 2 days. However, the Swedish Cardinal Anders Aurelius assured that this one will last longer because many cardinals do not know each other. The conclave will take place in the Vatican's Sistine Chapel, which will remain closed to visitors during those days. Chinese President Xi Jinping urged on Monday workers and the people to pay their dues for the rejuvenating the nation. The national rejuvenation emerged as the main domestic goals, which already leaves behind the old policies. Currently, economic sectors come up with astonishing figures such as 3 million new urban jobs. In addition, the Chinese head of state made clear that his government will not demand global factories except those in the U.S. to pay an additional margin of 145% tariff.
今天，党领导14亿多人民正一起
Let us rally more closely around the Chinese Communist Party's Central Committee.
现代化的新征程上。时代不同，使命任务发生变化，但艰苦奋斗、团结奋斗
Get down to earth with strenuous efforts and unyielding dedication.
永远不会变。让我们更加紧密地团结在党中央周围。
Embrace the new era with creativity and strive for new successes.
拼搏奉献，用创造拥抱新时代，以奋斗铸就新。
So that one step at a time, we turn the grand blueprint of realizing the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation into reality.
宏伟蓝图变成现实。
Let's take a last break, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the most recent events. One financial break, don't go away. Welcome back. The Prime Minister of Grenada, Deacon Mitchell, arrived in Venezuela on Monday to strengthen diplomatic ties and cooperation between both nations. The Prime Minister was welcomed at the Magadí International Airport by several officials of the Bolivarian government. Venezuela and Grenada have maintained diplomatic relations for more than 47 years. The relations are considered successful, strategic, and highly beneficial for both nations and are carried out under the principle of mutual respect for the territorial and political integrity. The two countries are also members of the renewal of the TCP bloc. Social and popular organizations rally on Monday in the Dominican Republic to mark the 60th anniversary of the April Revolution of 1965. The Dominicans remember the historical figure of Commander Francisco Maño, who led the civic military rebellion on April 24, 1965, aimed at returning the country's constitutional order after a military coup by President Juan Bosch in September 1963. The Popular Movement gave the U.S. administration of Lyndon Johnson the justification to launch the invasion of the Caribbean island with the support of the organizations of the American states. The conflict ended on September 3, 1965, with the signing of that of reconciliation, a deal that revolutionaries signed to prevent bloodshed by more than 3,000 U.S. soldiers. However, the popular resistance against the U.S. invasion has been registered as a heroic example of patriotism by the Dominican people.
We commemorate the 60th anniversary of the triumph of the Dominican people against the reactionary sectors that on a date like this staged a coup d'état against President Juan Bosch. And the people, with Francisco Alberto Camaño, with a group of constitutionalist soldiers, put an end to those attempts against our people. And here at this same square took place the most epic battle of the Dominican people to defeat the troops of San Isidro. Our people, with the participation of Dominicans and Haitians, defeated on that April the 28th, 1965, the U.S. interventionist army that invaded our homeland to trample on our national sovereignty, the brave and the untamed, as our national anthem says. An anthem that was written by Emilio Pudan to highlight the heroic exploit of the Dominicans on August 16, 1863.
In Panama, security agencies detained more than 60 teachers during the peaceful mobilizations of workers against the government policies of President José Raúl Mulino. The National Union of Workers of Construction and similar industries, SUNTRAX, together with the teachers' unions, marched in rejection of Law 462 of the Social Security Fund, which reduces pension of retirees and increases the retirement age. Through a communique, the president of the union urged the Panamanian people to join the protest against the Mulino government that seeks to surrender the sovereignty and self-determination of the country. Moving on, in Palestine, at least 32 Palestinian citizens were killed and others injured in new airstrikes by Israeli occupation forces on the Gaza Strip. Local sources report around 12 Palestinian citizens were killed in a string of Zionist attacks against mosques throughout Gaza City and Beit Lahiya. In addition, occupation forces airstrikes also target residential neighborhoods and refugee camps throughout the northern part of the Palestinian enclave, killing at least 20 people. The Palestinian ambassador to the United Nations, Riyad Mansour, has denounced Israel's actions in Gaza and planned for help in front of the UN's highest court. Mansour told the International Court of Justice that Israel's actions in Gaza and the occupied territories are illegal and inhuman. The ICJ opened hearing Mondays into Israel's obligations to ensure and facilitate urgently needs humanitarian access to the Palestinian civilians in the occupied territories, bringing the ongoing conflict in Gaza back into focus on The Hague.
Justification whatsoever for abandoning an entire nation to the most horrific fate. Denying humanitarian and development assistance to the Palestinian people is an integral part of the breach by Israel of the rights of the Palestinian people guaranteed by these fundamental norms. It is paramount that the court, while determining Israel's obligations in relation to these norms, also remind all states, I repeat, remind all states and the international community as a whole of their obligation to bring those breaches to an end. Ensuring accountability to end these breaches is the assistance we most desperately need. We need your help.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook and X and on Instagram as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm from the South, I'm Ana Marrero. Thank you for watching.